And fans, welcome to another week of Sports Chat. A lot going on this week. Some big signings with Cougar football. The district tournament is underway, and the Lady Cougars have picked up a big win. The Cougars themselves play tomorrow night. Senior night has happened, and spring sports have started practice today.
Yeah, Corey Phillips and Andrew Evans both chose to sign with Kentucky Christian University. Pardon me. They got, frankly, the best scholarship offer for those two came from there, and you can't blame them for going up there. About 3-hour ride away, but get to see them both playing again on some Saturdays. We were probably planning on going up to catch a game.
It's one thing about Kentucky Christian. They play in the NAIA's Mid-South Conference, where they play the University of the Cumberlands, Cumberland College from Tennessee, and Georgetown University. So it's several games are going to be in this vicinity.
The coaches, we spoke with the recruiting coordinator who came down for the signing and handled recruitment. He pretty much said once he saw Corey and his willingness to go over the middle, go up and get the balls that most people don't want to catch, and the fact that Corey's 6'5", that really sold him, and that's all it took, and he was very happy to be able to get him.
Yeah, and Corey's the wide receiver coach there. Corey's in a good position. This guy, he was in Orangewood at Syracuse. He's one of their all-time leading receivers. Got drafted by the Raiders and actually learned under Fred Biletnikoff.
That's quite a pedigree to have, and I like the fact that I think both of them, Andrew and Corey, will feed off each other being there, and they're going to room together according to the coach. Andrew wasn't sure where he was going at Corey's signing. The coach recruited him and sold him on the positive aspects of the school up there.
And Andrew's going to be, he's going to be the impact player on that defense. You can guarantee it.
I mean, Andrew's got size. He's 6'3", 6'4", 275 pounds, a strong kid.
Here's the thing about Andrew. He's 16. He's still going to grow.
He's a hard worker. I mean, so is Corey, and of course Nick Bailey. He's signing
in the morning
with Carson Newman. Very popular destination around here if you're a good enough player. They play in the NCAA Division III level, I believe. I'm not sure what it's called now.
Yeah, I think they're Division II now.
Is it Division II? Yeah, it was Division I, Division 1A. They call them different names now.
But very strong tradition there.
Carson Newman was in AI many years ago, but they moved up into the NCAA ranks. Good chance. People make big careers out of Carson Newman.
I've known Carson Newman guys to go to the NFL.
It's entirely possible. They put out coaches. Our own Dan Turner up here at the Cougars. He's a Carson Newman graduate. Brent Peel's Carson Newman graduate.
Justin Heath. He doesn't coach. He's a big supporter of the Cougars. He played up here the brief time that I was coaching at Campbell County. Excellent defensive end. Big Carson Newman guy.
I'm certain that no one's going to go up there and outwork Nick. He hits it really hard in the weight room, plays wide open on the field. Pretty decent conference they're in, get to play some good competition. And, of course, Newman, you usually get to win a lot of games. Ken Sparks has been around there for, 30 years now. And he's won a lot of games over the years, and they usually make the playoffs, and usually advance in the playoffs a few rounds in. Sometimes they even get towards the championship game. Not sure that they've won a Division II NCAA championship yet, but they've gotten pretty close to it a couple of times. They're usually in the top 10, so it's a pretty good program. I think Nick will fit in well there. And, he had pretty decent grades, so they like that aspect of it. And he's just a good fit, I think.
Yeah, he's the type of player that any college that got him was going to be lucky. ETSU made an offer to him. Of course, ETSU doesn't offer you a lot of opportunity up front because they're completely rebuilding the program from nothing.
Yeah.
They actually got a really good lineman from AC, a really good receiver from Clinton, and a really good running back from Marysville. So
now, at ETSU, you would have gotten to play for a coach who's coached at the Division I. He coached in North Carolina, Carl Torbush. But it's going to be a while before that program wins a lot of games. They play in a really tough division against teams like Appalachian State and a few others in that area.
VMI's in that one, Citadel.
The teams that play, Division I team, Appalachian State beat Michigan a few years ago. And that's a very surprising game. that would have been a good competition, but ETSU, they're only going to play a junior varsity schedule next year, and then after that, it'd just be a complete rebuilding process. Of course, Newman offers a pretty good education for this area. It's a nice degree to have. So I can't fault them at all for going there. Get to win a lot of football.
Now, a funny story. We're talking about when Michigan lost to Appy State. It's when Derek Marlowe was playing at Coastal Carolina. Derek, who plays for the Spartans and is our offensive coordinator, played with Matt and Justin. So they were going up to Penn State the next week. But you know what? If Appy State can do this, we can do this. It didn't work out so well. He was like, I felt pretty good. I was playing nose to nose with the guy. I was getting tired, but I could tell he was getting tired. And they immediately pulled him and put a guy just as good in. It was fresh.
Yeah, that's the difference between schools like Appy State, and that speaks to what they did. They only have around 50 scholarship players at those schools, and you got 85 in the NCAA. So, plus, really the most elite of elites. You take out one guy, put in another guy, all game long, and there's not that big of a fall off. And it's just that speaks volumes about what Appy State did. It rarely happens. It happens a few times though. Was it Florida lost to Jacksonville? Mm-hmm. Whoever this year, Florida did it this year, pulled their big loss, which made me happy because it's Florida. Any loss they have that's bad makes me bad. Any loss they have at all makes me happy unless it's Alabama beat them. But
yeah, I mean it happens. Well, I said you go to these schools and you're going to compete, for conference titles, for maybe for national titles. Cumberland did.
Yeah, I mean, Nick, I think his size probably hurt him with the higher level schools. But Nick Reves, he played at UT as a linebacker. He was 5'9", 5'10".
I remember the playoff game where Nick Reves played against Campbell County, and he was about a little bit bigger than Nick, but not much.
He got into UT a lot on the fact that his father is a legacy at UT. But he played pretty decently. Ended up, by his senior year at Tennessee, actually being a pretty big contributor. And if he can do it at 5'10" and 215 pounds, with as hard as Nick works, I think he's going to be a really good player at Carson Newman.
Oh, absolutely.
5'9" and 215 pounds.
Absolutely. All three of those guys, just tremendously hard workers. But they were going to be an asset to whatever school they went to.
Most schools, they fall in love with size and figure they can teach them how to play sometimes. It's the same we were talking earlier about Ethan Jefferson, his college prospects. They're very, very excellent prospects anyway because he puts up huge numbers. He does it without the benefit of Division I level wide receivers, which you see a lot of quarterbacks that get recruited to Division I schools have other Division I talent on their team, and it helps them a lot. Ethan's got good receivers for this level of football. They're fast, they're explosive, and it helps him out a lot. And he's got a pretty good offensive line, but he doesn't have that elite talent throwing it to.
He's got great wide receivers, but he doesn't have tall wide receivers, especially now that Corey's gone.
Well, I always point out that Justin Worley, who put up all the ridiculous numbers in college, had Cordell Patterson to throw it to. And you imagine Cordell Patterson, he's 6'4" and runs a 4.2, 5.40, or somebody who had Randy Moss in high school. Quarterbacks like that, just throw it up there, and your receivers are taking it. You put up huge numbers, and attract attention. Well, Ethan put up big numbers, like say 26 in the country in the junior class, according to Max Preps, and he did it without that explosive wide receiver who's going to hit Division I and be a top recruit in Division I football. And so next year, if Ethan was 6'4", he's only about 6'2". If he got up to 6'4", I think he would be flooded with offers from Division I schools. And he may get quite a few offers anyway. Drew Brees is only around 6'1", 6'2". Brees got a quick release and a kind of a high release, so it works out well for him.
And that class right there, he's got some weapons still. I mean, he's gonna have Torres, Elkins, Miller, and Paul Cordell to distribute the ball to. And who knows what's going to step up?
There are plenty of targets out there. It should be a good year next year. They're losing 9 total seniors. 4 of those seniors I believe, are starters. Most of them start both ways. it works out where there are 9 basically starters coming back on offense, and I think 6 or 7 on defense because of the way the numbers broke out. But it's going to be hard to. You don't really replace Nick Bailey. You don't really replace Andrew or Corey or Christian Monday, but someone else comes along and fills their position adequately, and maybe somebody else steps up big.
And you know, we know there's a lot coming up because we also had the middle school events this last week.
Yeah.
And there were 2 healthy groups.
The positions are wide open up there except for usually quarterback. Justin's not going to start a quarterback obviously Ethan's going to start every game, provided he's healthy, and we hope he stays healthy. He was great luck with health last year, had a sprained ankle, but he got over that one. Justin would be very reluctant to start any underclassman. That's not what he ever wants to do again. He was a nervous wreck after Ethan's sophomore year when he had to start Ethan. And Ethan's a level above most quarterbacks you'll ever see mentally. And even starting him, made Justin a nervous wreck. Paid off last year, though. It got Ethan plenty of valuable game experience. It's something they don't want to have to do. And you just got to bring them along slow. But other positions, offensive line, we saw Peyton Webb, come in and start starting as a freshman. And a lot of sophomores. Austin Rain started as a sophomore. Elijah Powell started as a sophomore. Elijah Powell, I saw him at the basketball game the other night. He's about the size of Andrew Evans, or getting close to it already.
Yeah, he's gonna do some big things this year, I think.
He's a hard worker. Hopefully Isaac Ford makes it back. That's a little up in the air right now, according to Matt. I would say he probably will be back. Preston Miller spoke about maybe having to move at one point, but they think that's probably settled, and he's going to get a stay. It's a good core group coming back. It's going to be a big junior class. Now that's going to be a class you're about tough to replace. But we'll see how they can handle that after next year. I know you're worrying about it now, but that's a big class. I think there's 22 kids in that class, as I said, versus 9 seniors this year. But the good thing, there's about 20 sophomores and 20, 25 freshmen, and probably going to be 25, 30 freshmen this coming up year. So the numbers aren't falling off dramatically now.
You have 2 quarterbacks coming in this year. Bowman with 2 years experience. Rutherford used to run in the system, got a good arm, got some good size for a freshman.
Yeah.
I saw some big old lineman types on both ends.
Yeah, there are going to be some good players coming up. I mean, Jacksboro obviously had a really good team this year. Made it to the championship game again. La Follette, very improved team over last year, and Rutherford did look really good throwing the ball. Bowman, they run more of a run-oriented offense at Jacksboro and didn't get to throw it that much, but I'm sure he's capable of it.
He threw pretty well the year before as a 7th grader. Of course, he had Josh Lay as a target, who was about 6'1".
It's not a lot of throwing goes on at Jacksboro. They choose to run the ground game, and they do it to great effect and win a lot of games with it. La Follette chooses to go with the high school's offense. I mean, Justin spoke of the terminology they use at Follette, and it's essentially the terminology they use at the high school. Coach Honeycutt, they teach together up at the high school, and they talk all the time, and it's really in sync. And it gives the kids from La Follette, it gives them a little bit of an edge up, and Justin admitted
it does. I mean,
that they had an edge up coming up there because they already knew a lot of the terminology. That was La Follette players who started as freshmen last year. They were familiar with the calls, and that helps. On the basketball front, as you mentioned, the Lady Cougars did get a win today. They'll advance in the district tournament. Hopefully the Cougars.
They play Central.
They play Central, and the Lady Cougars beat Central. And the guys are playing Central. They beat Central up here last week. I believe they beat Central. Yeah. Beat Central up here last week. Hopefully they can get another victory. It's the game at Powell tomorrow night at 7:30. I believe it was 7:30 anyway, and see if they can advance in tournament. I think they had to win 2 games in the district tournament probably to get a chance to go to the regional.
Right.
Usually that's how it works.
You can be in a position where you have to win 3, but I think there was one team that had to win 3, but it was not Campbell County.
I know usually if you win 3 games, you're in the finals. And I know for sure if you make it if you win 3 games. But that may just be winning 3 games if you start out with a bye, though. Actually, I think it is if you start out with a bye, you don't have to win. You win 3. Well, if you win 3 games, start out with a bye, you win the championship. you win 3 games and you start out without a bye, as long as you win them in a row, and aren't playing the consolation game, I think you'd make it. Well, no, you'd still make it the consolation game anyway if they still have that. I think they do.
There is a third and fourth place game because it determines seeding in the region.
Yeah. So hopefully, anyway, the Cougars can get on a roll.
The Lady Cougars, they have the potential. I think Amber Guy is back now. She'd been a little under the weather. Jamie Minot's had some issues with her hand. And she was wrapped up the other night, but she seems to be playing like it's not bothering her too bad.
Well, obviously it didn't bother them that much tonight. They really put a beating on Central the other night when they played up here, and it doesn't surprise me that they managed to win. So they're a couple of wins away from possibly getting to go to the regional. Really good Anderson County and really good Halls team in the district.
And on the boys' side, Carnes and Oak Ridge are
really skilled teams. Oak Ridge usually always is. Campbell County hasn't beat Oak Ridge in many years. Many years. I want to say the boys haven't beat Oak Ridge in maybe close to 20 years or so.
We know it's just like the stat with the Lady Dragons and the Lady Wildcats. Oak Ridge hasn't lost to Clinton since we were in high school. That's Wildcat.
Yeah. But I was surprised to see that out of the Cougars. You play Oak Ridge twice every year, sometimes 3 times. And basketball games are usually easier to win as an underdog, simply because there's less players impact the game. In basketball, if you have 2 impact players in a game, you've got a good shot at winning with those 2 impacting. But for them to not win, it was quite a number of years. I don't remember exactly, but it was a lot. And it's a surprisingly large number of years they had been since they beat Oak Ridge. And I know Oak Ridge is good and feels a good team, but you'd think there would be an upset somewhere along the line.
It's true. I mean, that's Oak Ridge is that. They used to say the road to the state went through Oak Ridge in East Tennessee.
It definitely did for girls.
And that still sometimes rings true. I mean,
they had a high concentration of really good athletes and pretty big population at Oak Ridge over the years.
And some really good coaches.
They have really good coaches. So it would all come together. Their population's fallen a little bit now. They dropped from 6A in football to 5A. They're not quite what they used to be, but they're still a really good program with really elite athletes. You see that in the track department.
Right. I mean, we didn't realize for a long time, but we only see Oak Ridge's B team in track.
Yeah. They have an A team that travels the country and competes at meets nationally. Speaking of track, sad news to us, Coach Ann Browning, has decided to retire from the track and field portion of her career.
She's still this cross country.
Still the cross country coach, but it's always nice to see Ann out there at the track meets. And she said this freed her up for a lot more time to work on her history class and things like that. So, that's great for her, great for the students. She seemed very happy. I'm sure her students are very happy because they generally love her. I mean, she's a very good teacher and she's a very good coach.
And knowing that Gracie's at the high school, they may have dragged the Faulkner out of retirement.
I've not saw one way or the other. Gracie is a really excellent athlete. Bryce Dawson, who's going to get to coach her, is going to get a coach, probably a sprinter who's going to make it to the state level her freshman year. She was the area sprinter of the year at East Tennessee. Runs a sub 13 second 100 meters in the 8th grade, so that's really excellent for an 8th grader. So she's probably going to have 4 good years ahead of her.
I saw on Facebook where men's Cougar soccer started practice today.
Yeah, Shane. Well, I'm sure all the spring. I'm sure that baseball was out there. I'm sure that soccer was out there. Everybody that could field their team for spring was out there.
I talked to Caitlin Ray. She said that they're getting ready to start softball, that she still had a week or so before she would really be with them. But
yeah, she's cheering, of course, throughout the tournament. That'll be it for her to cheer on this level. She's hopes to cheer in college. But spring sports are getting cranked up. Hopefully, we can have some spring sporting guests over the next week.
Also next week we will have Coach Cody Parker. He was going to come tonight, but our scheduling conflict kind of kiboshed that. But Cody said he was more than willing to come next week.
Get a rundown. He can have some of these great Papa John's pizza and get one of these perfect cookies. God, these cookies are really good.
They are, and here's the thing about the cookie. When you get it, eat it. Eat every bit of it. Don't let it sit around.
I don't see anybody lets it sit around anyway, but it's a wonderful cookie. Let's try the cheeseburger pizza, try some of those. Can't speak highly enough of the cheeseburger pizza.
Right, of course, I had some wings before everybody got here. I'm a big fan of the wings.
He ate them all before we got here. I wouldn't have eaten any anyway, but Chris and I have. Thanks.
I figured the pizza would, be okay. I'll let some actually skin on it if
He probably not going to eat
Yeah,
that.
I think so.
I wouldn't blame him for not. But that's about it, I guess, for this week.
All right, fans, we will see you next week, hopefully with the popular Parker brother, Cody Parker.